Hello, everyone. This is Robb Fahrion with another episode of the Sage Executive Podcast, where top executives and business leaders share their sage advice. We have an incredible guest today doing great things in the medical and technology field. So I'm really excited for you to meet him and hear his story and advice. Our show is 6 questions in about 9 minutes, because the wise speak in few words. So let's get right into it with question number 1. Vince, in a few sentences, would you mind telling us who you are and what it is you do?
I'm Vincent McCord, and I am a CFO for a startup company, Core Diagnostic Corporation. This is one of several startup companies that I've been CFO for. But if you look at my career, it's been about half in large public corporations and half in what I'd call a startup environment. And this is one of the earliest stage companies I've been at. There are literally 5 employees in the company right now. And we're starting in the field of infectious disease testing, with the COVID virus being our first disease that we're tackling. And our goal is to bring low-cost, rapid, accurate testing to the consumer in their homes or their doctor's office. Like I said, we're developing our first products. We should be in the market within the next 3 months. And that's sort of my role in a nutshell right now as the CFO.
Love it. When was Core Diagnostics founded?
June of this year.
Oh, wow. So was this company founded in response to COVID?
Yes and no. I think it got impetus, I'll call it, from COVID.
Sure.
But the strategy, the vision, however you want to say it, all along has been in a spectrum of infectious diseases. In other words, what we believe we're developing a platform to go after a variety of infectious diseases in a worldwide market. You know, we're not focused just in the United States. We think some of our biggest market opportunities are in really developing countries,
Sure.
African continent, Latin America, Asia, that sort of thing.
Great. Okay. So Vince, obviously you've worked at, large companies, startups in the infancy, like here, in leadership roles as well, especially being an officer, CFO. What would you say for yourself is the best thing about being a leader and someone that, manages others in an organization?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, making order out of the chaos. I mean, oftentimes, what you're in as a leader is solving a problem. You may not be the head of a large, multinational organization, but you've been put in charge of solving and making a success out of a particular situation. So I think, just getting a vision of how to go about this, getting started, forming the team, that sort of thing, and then starting to see some of the initial results. I think that's, very, very exciting, because oftentimes I think the leader sees it before some of the team members do.
Definitely.
And so I think when you can sense that and then start spreading it through the team, that's one of the most exciting aspects of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. You as the leader, you obviously have this vision, but you really get the buy-in when you do start to see those actual results start to come to fruition. That's a great point. So in your space, especially medical technology, obviously very competitive. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts for how, like, a company like Core Diagnostic or any of those other startups that maybe you worked with, how do they kind of carve that path, right? Or how do they acquire new clients or new business with so much competition, so many others that are out there? What have you seen has been really effective in terms of new business acquisition or growth for the companies that you've been a part of?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Clearly, most of my experience in this regard has been in information technology, where I've spent most of my career. I'm relatively new to the medical space, and what I think, to me, the single best thing to achieve success here is a compelling product or service. Something that really the customer can see as a must-have product. And I've been involved with at least 2 situations like that. They were extremely successful, and the primary reason was the product itself.
Right.
Was just so advantageous, over the competition. Now, at what I'd call the other end of the scale, I started my business career with IBM as a computer
Okay.
salesman. And there it was a little bit of a different situation where there was no one particular product that we maybe had the best of breed in, but we could offer such a total system solution to the customer, and the service was just overwhelming.
Right.
The customer knew that he could not fail choosing IBM. And I think it was because of the service and support. I mean, one of the things that goes hand in hand with this, I think, is having a likable sales team.
Right.
The customer will buy from someone he likes,
Yeah.
and that can overcome product deficiencies. I mean, if you
Sure.
can have the best of both worlds, a great product, great sales, great service,
Yeah.
that's everything.
That's
But
a good.
there are elements that can overcome maybe some product deficiencies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We've seen on our side of things the personal branding side, which I think talks about, people buying from people that they like, same token, people doing business with people that they like, right? Or at least seeing that face generates more trust. I
Yep.
think now brands have they've kind of moved to the dark side in a way when you have like, your Facebooks, your Google, and you hear about all these privacy issues and concerns, and that kind of trickles down to really any brand, right? So it's a matter of, okay, if you have someone that is likable, personable, you trust, you can talk to, picks up the phone or responds, right? I think that goes a long way. And yeah, we wrote a piece about the personal branding side, and it's like one of our most popular content pieces on the site, because I think people are realizing that, right? At the end of the day, it's people doing business with people, not people doing business with the brand. So that's a great point. Great point. So moving into question 4, then, um, looking for we call it Sage Advice, Sage Executive Podcast, right? What would you say is the one core piece of advice that you would give to other executives, business leaders, young business people like myself, that we could learn from and take into our everyday challenges in the business world?
Well, that's a very good question, and there's several responses I thought of, but I think the one, if I had to pick one, it's what I would call input. In other words, a good advisor I once had used to say, "Hey, there's all this input out there, and it's free."
Yeah.
And so, some of the people I've worked for, who I admired and respected them, even though in some cases I didn't necessarily like them. One of the characteristics they had was they sought out inputs from a lot of different sources
Mm,
before they made a decision,
right.
and they were very patient about it. I think along with this idea of gathering inputs is patience. Take the extra time before you make a decision.
Right.
I one of my biggest regrets has been acting too impetuously, too quickly, when I should have just waited and gathered some more facts before
Sure.
moving ahead. And I think part of the reason for that is there's a fear people have of making a wrong decision. And so I think oftentimes they'll make a decision too quickly because they don't want to be proven that their initial idea is wrong. So
Mm.
they'll just go ahead with the decision, and then it's too late.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would say it's a combination of input and patience.
Okay. All right. I love that. Do you think that process plays into a lack of patience, to where if you have a process for decision making, whatever it may be, then that kind of coincides with being patient or gathering the right type of information, versus if you don't have a process, then you might not be patient because you just make a decision because you have to, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No question about it. That's why I often counsel people when they're first starting their business career, start with a large successful company. There's a reason that company is successful, and
Sure.
a lot of that is the internal processes that they have.
Right.
Learn from that before you rush out and try to start the next Intel or something. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just learn from the experience.
Right, right. No, I love that. So question number 5, we're obviously trying to fill the pipeline with new guests, incredible guests like yourself. So is there anyone that you would like to acknowledge that you think would be a great resource for our listeners, that would be a great guest on the show to provide some insights and advice to our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first one that comes to mind, should I give the name now?
Yeah, we'd love that. Give him. This is where give him a shout out for sure.
Yeah, Finis Conner. I don't know if you ever heard of Conner Peripherals in the disk drive space.
Okay.
He had co-founded Seagate Technology, and then he left there and started Conner Peripherals in '84, I guess it was. I joined them in '88, and to give an example of the success, the company's first year of revenue was $111 million.
Wow.
The second was,
and that was in '88.
That was in '88.
Wow. Okay.
The second year was 256 million. The third year was 700 million, and the fourth year was 1.3 billion.
That's a pretty good growth rate.
We were the fastest growing manufacturing company in U.S. history.
Wow. Okay.
And one of the things I think will be compelling about having him as a guest is he had this philosophy, and I'm not sure he was the first to originate this, but it was, you normally think of, well, we're going to design a product, then we're going to build it, and then we'll sell it.
Right.
He said, no, we're going to reverse this. We're going to sell it first, then we'll design and build it. And so with that, he knew he had a built-in customer right from the beginning. So it took some of the risk out of the investment in both development and manufacturing process.
Right. Well, and then you're building exactly what the customer wants.
Exactly. Now, I was talking about compelling products. We had the first 3.5-inch disk drive back in the mid to late '80s, and that was such a huge advantage for the computer makers. The Compaqs, the NECs, the IBMs, et cetera. Everyone wanted to get their hands on that small disk drive, and that's what caused those huge revenue growths that I was talking about. So I think he'd be a great guest for you.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, he sounds like it. And you guys go way back then.
Oh yeah. If I'm sure I could contact him if you need an introduction. Just let me know.
That would be awesome. Okay, so to wrap up, Vince, we're doing awesome. We like a fun question here for number 6. After a win, what is it that you like to do to celebrate? Personal win, business win, any type of win you may be able to think of.
Well, I think going out to dinner with my wife might be the best. I've been fortunate, and I've been married for 46 years.
Wow!
And I'll give her all the credit, especially since she just walked in.
She could hear you.
No, seriously, I think the spouse really has to make a sacrifice in letting the individual spend all the time on the work that it takes to get the kind of successes we're talking about.
Right.
And I think that when all is said and done, and you've reached that success point, sharing that and just trying to explain to them what it was all about is a huge sort of debt that you owe to them.
Right.
And it's oftentimes hard to do, but at least showing that you really want to let them know what all this was about, and share it with them.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I know there's late nights when I'm working and distracted with other things, right? And I'm like, obviously the best intentions, right? But sometimes it's hard for them to understand like what it is in your head that makes sense of all of it sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a great point. And then I know we're kind of neighbors, right? Close enough. So Santa Monica, like where's the restaurant of choice? I gotta ask.
Well, we have several. In fact, some are literally in walking distance.
Oh, that's nice.
We go down here to it's funny. I'm trying to think of the one. There's one called North Italia we go to.
Yeah.
There's one right on the corner. I can't think of the name of it, near the promenade in Santa Monica. We go to quite a bit. Margot, which is one that's close by. Now, the ironic thing is my wife's favorite restaurant in this area I've never been to is called, was it Jolene? She loves that, but I haven't been there yet.
Oh
So,
man,
so that's so the next big occasion we'll go there.
there we go. That sounds good. That sounds like a deal. Well, Vince, thank you so much for being on. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and day. How can people find more about you and then more about Core Diagnostics as well?
Yeah, go to LinkedIn for me. And then for Core Diagnostics, you can go to our website at www.core-dx.com, and you'll get the story.
Great. Yeah, we'll be sure to include that in all the show notes. And to everyone out there listening, thank you so much again for being on. My name is Robb Fahrion with the Sage Executive Podcast. For more insights and to check out more episodes of the show, visit us at flyingvgroup.com/podcast. Vince, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Same here, Rob. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.